It's little snaps.
This is 17-year-old Maria Pollack, a high school cheerleader who loved to dance and had her whole life stretching out before her. But on July 20th, 2024, everything changed in the most horrific way imaginable. What you're about to hear is the story of how a father took a box cutter and ended his daughter's life in their own home. But the question that haunts everyone who knew this family is simple and terrifying. Why?
I got it. Let's open it. Let's see what what the hype is about. When I open this, I hope it don't be melted. Please don't be melted! Okay, this is from TikTok Shop, y'all. Wait, okay, y'all, look. Ain't no flavor that. Hold on. It ain't melted, y'all. It's not melted good. Because I heard that when people be ordering from these little skincare or whatever, well, I'm glad mine's not melted. It's really not that hot outside. But look, y'all, I'm gonna open this and see what the hype about. It reminds me like some type of bubble gum, but a smell, hubba bubba. Oh no, I'm finna go outside. Alright guys, this is how it looks. This is it on my skin. I didn't rub it in yet. Y'all can kind of see it now, I think. But y'all, go hit them up.
The night of July 20th, 2024 started like any other night in the Pollack household on Adel Street in Savannah, Georgia. Maria Pollack, just 17 years old, was home with her family. Her mother Tanya and father Maurice had been married for 20 years. They had built what seemed like a normal life together, raising Maria and her brothers. No prior domestic violence calls, no child protective services involvement, no legal issues, nothing that would have made anyone think this family was headed toward tragedy. Maria herself was thriving.
You see, that's your problem now. The first thing y'all say, so many of you guys be like oh, why would I believe somebody who I can't see? Oh my gosh, I'm not gonna believe in him because I can't hear. Well, clearly, you don't read. And even if you try, you don't understand. You just need to watch a video or something. Clearly, if you look in the Bible, which you probably have no time for it, you will see that everything that's happening now is happening in the book. Oh my gosh.
She was a student at A.E. Beach High School, and she had recently gotten news that had her over the moon. Maria was part of the Star Dance Company. Her family described her as beautiful, bubbly, funny, outgoing, and adventurous. They had a special nickname for her, Ladybug. But on that Saturday night in July, something went terribly wrong. Around 11 o'clock in the evening, neighbors heard screaming, then a gunshot. The Savannah Police Department received reports of a gunshot at the residence in the 900 block of Adel Street. When officers arrived, they found 17-year-old Maria Pollack dead in her bedroom, her body showing multiple stab wounds to her abdomen. And they found 43-year-old Maurice Pollack suffering from a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head. Right in the middle of it all was Tanya Pollack, Maria's mother, who had walked into the nightmare before the gunshot. Maria had been stabbed with a box cutter, a weapon Maurice had used to inflict wounds so severe that Maria had no chance of survival. Tanya describes finding Maurice in the corner, hands above his head, pacing. He was screaming.
Well, Tanya Pollack says her husband Maurice, their beautiful, kind, happy daughter Maria before attempting to take his own life as well. This mother says she doesn't understand why he would do something this heinous. We want to warn viewers, some of what is described may be disturbing.
My daughter's stomach was split open and her guts were hanging out. I grabbed her and pulled her. Her mouth was open and it's just like she wasn't here anymore.
That's how Tanya Pollock found her 17-year-old daughter inside her home on the evening of July 20th. Surrounded by her family, she recounted the next moments. The suspect, someone she couldn't believe, her husband, Maurice.
I see that man who's supposed to be my husband, who's supposed to love my kids and us, standing in the corner with his hands over his head like this, and I'm looking like, what is going on? Maurice is screaming. Maurice says, call the police.
All of this while one of her sons was screaming. She then walked into her daughter's room.
I was screaming her name, and I was like, what did you do?
She tried to call 911, but the dispatchers couldn't understand her. She then went to her neighbor's house.
That's when I heard the gun go off. I ran back over to the house, and that man was on the floor in her room. And I just grabbed my daughter and I held her until the police got there.
One of Maria's brothers was there too, witnessing this horror unfold in his own home. Tanya tried to call 911, but the dispatchers couldn't understand her. In her panic, the words wouldn't come out right. She ran to her neighbor's house for help. While Tanya was at the neighbor's house, Maurice shot himself. He took a gun and fired into his own head, right there in Maria's bedroom. When Tanya heard that gunshot and ran back to the house, she found Maurice on the floor, wounded but alive. And what did she do? When police arrived, they immediately classified this as a domestic homicide. No signs of forced entry or evidence of third-party involvement. This was a father who had killed his own child in their home. And then, after taking his daughter's life, Maurice had attempted to take his own. But Maurice survived. Maurice was rushed to Memorial Health University Medical Center in critical condition. The gunshot wound to his head was life-threatening, but he pulled through, and in surviving, he would have to face what he had done. The Chatham County Coroner's Office would later confirm exactly what had killed Maria. She had been stabbed at least once with a box cutter, suffering multiple wounds to her abdomen. The coroner made it clear, Maria died from stab wounds, not gunshot wounds. And here's where the story gets even more disturbing. There were no prior reports of abuse or conflicts documented in public records. This family, by all outward appearances, was normal. Maurice didn't have a widely reported criminal history. So what happened that night? What could possibly drive a father to do something so heinous to his own child?
Tonight we're hearing new details from family members on the death of 17-year-old Maria Pollock, allegedly at the hands of her dad, 43-year-old Maurice Pollock. Maria was killed just last night around 11 p.m. Last night at the 900 block of Adel Street, police discovered 43-year-old Maurice Pollock suffering from a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head. Maria was found dead at the scene. Family members spoke exclusively with WTOC at the scene today, and Maria's aunt tells us that her father, Maurice Pollock, allegedly killed his daughter by stabbing her to death with a box cutter before attempting to end his own life. Maria's aunt says she was horrified by the tragedy her family's now going through.
She was just a firecracker. She's a high school student. She just got selected to be a cheerleader, so she was excited for that. It's not a call you want to hear. You hope for the best as a family, but when you find out what's going on, it's really devastating for her mom and all her family right now, especially her siblings and everybody. It's so soon, and it's too early, and you know, the mom should never lose her child before they're gone. No parent should.
Maurice is now in the hospital recovering from that self-inflicted gunshot wound, and Maria's body will be sent for an official autopsy. Savannah police say the investigation is ongoing. Anyone with any information should come forward.
In the days following Maria's death, the family was left reeling, trying to make sense of something that didn't make sense. That's Lakeisha Leach Cooper, Maria's aunt, and she's right. No parent should ever have to bury their child. On July 24, 2024, just 4 days after Maria's death, family and friends gathered for a candlelight vigil at the Pollock home on Adel Street, the same house where Maria had died. The family transformed that space into a place of remembrance, lit candles, and shared stories about Maria. They celebrated a life cut short.
Everything happens for a reason. There's a bigger purpose, and we're gonna seek it.
Savannah police found a teenage girl in what they're calling a domestic homicide. Her family speaking for the first time tonight at a candlelight vigil. WJCL 22 News' Tia Maggio joining us live now from our newsroom. Friends and family telling you they're still in shock about this news.
Well, Greg, it was on Adel Street where Savannah police say they found 43-year-old Maurice Pollock was seriously hurt from gunshots and 17-year-old Maria Pollock on Saturday night. Now Maria's family wants everyone to remember her name.
Imagine waking up, seeing somebody every day for 17 years, and then one day not seeing them.
A mother's pain echoing across Adel Street Wednesday night. After losing her teen daughter just days before, 17-year-old Maria Pollock was found on that same street Saturday night in what SPD says was a domestic dispute. Friends and family still in shock of the news.
Oh, Maria's unresponsive. And it just broke me, and I didn't know, and it's okay. And I was checking like the tracking app.
Okay.
And a mother just wanting her daughter back.
I don't know why it happened. I don't know the reason why it happened. All I can say is thank you for all of this love and support, and I just wish that she was here.
The family says Maria's funeral will take place in the beginning of August. Back to you, Greg.
Tia Maggio reporting on a developing and heart-wrenching story. Thank you so very much. Savannah police tell us they've already obtained and served an arrest warrant for Maurice Pollock. He is in critical condition at a local hospital.
The vigil was emotional. People cried, hugged, and demanded justice for Maria. Even in the midst of their grief, there was anger at what Maurice had done. Tanya spoke at the vigil, and her words were both heartbreaking and powerful. Tanya described Maria as beautiful, kind, and happy, on someone who was just figuring out who she was as a young woman. Maria was at that age where everything feels possible. And then, in one night, all of that was taken away. Despite the fact that Maurice was her husband of 20 years, Tanya was clear. Maurice needed to be held accountable. Tanya expressed confusion over the motive, saying she didn't know why it had happened. And that lack of understanding makes the tragedy even more painful. Maria's aunt Lakeisha also spoke about Maria at the vigil. Lakeisha described Maria as a firecracker, as someone adventurous, outgoing, funny, and loving. Maria was described as a true girly girl who loved dancing, as at the time of her death, she had just found out she'd been selected for the team at her high school. And for a teenage girl, that's huge. But she never got the chance to put on that uniform. She never got to cheer at a single game. Maria's brother also shared his grief. He talked about the last conversation he'd had with his sister. He told her that if she needed anything, she should let him know. He didn't know that would be the last time he'd talk to his sister. Learning about what had happened, he said, broke his heart.
The last thing I told her was, if she needed anything, just let me know. That's the last thing I told her. And when I got the call and heard about this, it just broke my heart, and I just couldn't believe it.
She was just growing up. She was ready to cheer. She's just always been an adventurous, outgoing, fun-loving person.
A GoFundMe page was set up to help the family with funeral expenses and other costs. Organized by Lakeisha, the fundraiser page raised over $3,920. Maria's funeral was held on August 3, 2024, at Sexton Hall Funeral Home in Port Wentworth, Georgia. Friends and family gathered once again to say their final goodbyes to Maria. But how do you find closure when someone you love has been taken in such a violent way? Meanwhile, Maurice was recovering from his gunshot wound in the hospital under police custody. He was arrested and charged with murder. The investigation by the Savannah Police Department was ongoing, with detectives trying to piece together exactly what had happened that night and why. Authorities have not disclosed a definitive reason for the killing. There's been speculation. Some coverage has pointed to possible underlying family tensions. Some have suggested Maurice may have been dealing with untreated mental health issues. But the truth is, nobody really knows. What we do know is that this case fits into a broader pattern. Research on filicide shows that fathers are more likely than mothers to commit such acts against older children, particularly children aged 8 and up. These crimes often occur in contexts of violence, substance abuse, or untreated mental health issues. The fact that Maria was 17 puts her in the age range where fathers are statistically more likely to be the perpetrators. But statistics don't make this any easier to understand. They can't explain why Maurice picked up that box cutter. They can't explain why he didn't stop, why he didn't think about the consequences. Over a year passed between the night Maria died and the day Maurice would finally face justice. During that time, he remained in custody. The legal process moved forward, slowly but inevitably. And then, on October 20th, 2025, Maurice Pollock appeared in court. That's right. According to what prosecutors revealed, Maurice's son told police he had heard an argument between Maurice and Maria over the Wi-Fi being turned off. A disagreement over internet access, something so mundane, had somehow escalated into murder. Now, the argument over Wi-Fi doesn't necessarily mean that was the actual motive. Arguments happen in families all the time without leading to murder. There's often a difference between the trigger and the underlying cause. But what we know for certain is that Maria's brother heard an argument. He heard screaming, and then Maurice ran into his son's room and said, "I messed up."
Plea deal in court today and was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole. Pollock stabbed his 17-year-old daughter Maria in 2024. In the courtroom, prosecutors said last July that Pollock's son told officers he heard an argument between his dad and Maria over the Wi-Fi being turned off. Maria's brother said he heard screaming before his dad ran into his room and told him, "I messed up." Police say Pollock stabbed his daughter, then shot himself. He lived, and prosecutors say Pollock admitted to stabbing Maria to death after an argument. Pollock's wife was consulted about the plea prior to today. It's unclear which prison Pollock will serve his sentence at.
In that courtroom, Maurice Pollock entered a negotiated guilty plea to malice murder. Without the plea deal, Maurice faced life without parole plus 20 years. Tanya was consulted about the plea deal before Maurice entered his guilty plea. We don't know exactly what she said, but we know what she said publicly in the days after Maria's death. She wanted Maurice to suffer. In exchange for pleading guilty, the charges of felony murder and aggravated assault were dropped. Maurice was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 30 years. That means if Maurice lives long enough, if he behaves himself, he could potentially be released when he's in his 70s. Meanwhile, Maria will never have another birthday. She'll never graduate, fall in love, or even have children. Court proceedings revealed no prior abuse allegations. The plea deal avoided a full trial that might have explored Maurice's motives, but it also spared Maria's family the ordeal of sitting through testimony and evidence. Tanya said she never wants to go back to that house, the house on Adel Street where Maria died. There are too many memories there now, too much sadness and pain. And the motive remains murky. We have that detail about the Wi-Fi argument, but is that really enough to explain what happened? Or was there something else going on that we'll never fully understand? The speculation about hidden secrets, mental health issues, and family tensions, all of that remains just speculation. Maurice pleaded guilty, so there was no trial. The answers died in that room with Maria, or they're locked inside Maurice's mind. What we're left with is a case that raises more questions than it answers. How do you prevent something like this when there are no warning signs? How do you protect children when the threat comes from inside their own home? All we can do is remember her, honor her memory, and hope that somehow her story can help prevent other tragedies like this from happening. Maurice Pollock will spend years behind bars. He'll have time to think about what he did, to reflect on the moment he picked up that box cutter. But no amount of prison time can bring Maria back. The damage is done. The loss is permanent. What do you think was the motive? Let me know in the comments section. Click on one of the cards on your screen to see more videos like this.